So firstly, Black Lives Matter and racism is real. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So judging by the title of the video, I'm sure that most of you will probably know what I'm going to be talking about. In this video I'm going to be talking about racism. I'm going to be talking about racism in social work and what we as practitioners, whether you are black or whether you are white, how we can challenge these injustices within our social work practice, within our day-to-day social work, in our interactions with service users, in our interactions with our colleagues, and just in general. So this was definitely on my list of things to talk about on my YouTube channel. However, I felt that because of the current climate and what's been going on, I felt it was quite befitting to talk about this now. I think we need to engage in conversation. I think there needs to be a dialogue around some of the issues that are currently happening and have been happening. Let me not kind of minimize that have been happening, and I think it's about me using my platform to share that message. So firstly, what I want to start off by saying is that racism is not always blatant. Racism is not always in your face, I hate you, you're black, you're disgusting, you're this, because racism isn't always like that. There's more to it, it's deeper than that. There's the conscious and there's the unconscious. So the conscious racism is what I've just referenced. Someone to your face or quite blatantly referencing the colour of your skin in a derogatory way to dehuman you and to reduce your entire being to just the colour of your skin. Unconscious racism is those stereotypes, those mindsets, those views that people have, those microaggressions that people demonstrate when interacting with someone who is black or someone who is of colour. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be speaking about black and the experiences of black people. So those microaggressions can be things such as using stereotypes to try and judge or try and form an idea of who that person is. What I don't understand is why people are so uncomfortable about speaking about race, why some people are so against or weirded out or feel like it's taboo to use the word black. I am black. I'm black. My skin is black, my face is black, everything about me is black. So if that's what you see, then that's what you can call me, that's okay. But some people feel that by referencing someone by their skin colour, that suddenly it's an offence. I promise you, it's okay to refer to me as black because that is what I am and I am proud. I also don't understand why people feel uncomfortable when black people uplift themselves. Black people say, I'm proud. Black people say, I love the colour of my skin. Black people say, you know, I'm black and I'm proud, and you know, I wouldn't change that. I don't know why people get really uncomfortable when we uplift ourselves, because to be honest, if you don't, who else will? Racism in social work. Do I personally feel that we are fair and just when it comes to racism? The answer is no. Now, very recently, I have been seeing that more and more. I mean, all you have to do is look on forums that are dedicated for social workers and to go through the comments on posts that are maybe referencing Black Lives Matter or referencing racism or referencing black people, to see how divided we are in the profession of social work. Now, I'm completely astonished, because our core social work values is about challenging injustice, is about recognising and appreciating people for their cultural backgrounds, for their identity, and not discriminating against people for their cultural upbringing or their backgrounds. And in a job like social work, where if you look at those comments, if I can find some, I'll insert them on the screen. But within those comments, you're seeing people really be quite mean and quite hurtful with their words, really be quite dehumanizing and quite demeaning also with their words when they say, oh, Black Lives Matter, but what about, and that's another thing. This word but, can we eradicate but from our vocabulary? It is so insulting when someone uses the word but as an argument for or against. It is so insulting when people share their experiences, people share what is going on for them, or people uplift themselves, because you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to uplift yourself. When you uplift yourself and people use the word but, Now this but narrative, I find, is a way of saying, oh yeah, no, but we understand that Black Lives Matter, but what about this person? What about poverty? What about these people? What about that people? We recognise those people. We recognise that. We're not anti that. We're not anti the experiences of others. But what we're saying is, at this very point in time, we want to talk about Black lives. And talking a bit more about that conscious and unconscious racism, it is always even more demoralising when the people that you work with, the people that you support, also share those views. You know, when you are working with families, or you're working with adults, or you're working with, you know, whatever service user or whatever field you're in, and people are exhibiting, people are quite brazenly sharing those views. In those instances, we really need to challenge. I can't even say understand, because it's not for us to understand, but we really need to challenge when people have those views, because they're not right views, they're not correct views, and we shouldn't be just reducing it to, oh well, they don't understand, or oh well, they don't know any different. And with the stuff that's happening in the media today and the people that are being interviewed, again, you still see people say, oh, that doesn't even happen, or people who are Black saying, I've never experienced it, so it's clearly not happening. Evidently it is still happening. It definitely is still happening. Whether you understand what you're seeing, what you're witnessing is being racist, whether that's, again, the unconscious or conscious, or whether you are so blind to it that you're not able to process what you're seeing in front of you. In terms of my experiences growing up, either in the workforce or in education, I've always been quite silent about some of the issues that I faced around racism, because I felt that I've just felt really defeated by it. Sometimes you just want to turn a blind eye to it because you don't want the hassle, you don't feel like you don't feel like you should be the person to educate people. You question, why don't you just get it? Why have I got to explain it to you? Why don't you just see it for what it is? One of the things is not staying silent. Spread awareness. If you are seeing something and you know that it's not right, you know that it's racist, you know that it is discriminatory towards someone because of the colour of their skin, you have a right and you have a duty to challenge that. It is not fair that you stay silent. You cannot stay silent when you are seeing those injustices. Do what encompasses your social work values and ethics, and advocate. Advocate for people, advocate for those that are marginalised. That's what you're there to do. Advocate for people who don't have that voice. Advocate for people who don't feel that they can challenge it because they are part of the minority, and maybe it's the majority that are kind of exhibiting these views onto them. You need to be their spokesperson. You need to be the person that's going to challenge what's going on. You don't have to be experiencing something to see that it's wrong. You don't have to be experiencing something to be called out on it. You don't have to be Black to know, hold on a second, that's not right, I need to say something. So when you don't challenge something wrong that you see, then you are complicit to it. And I know that's probably quite hard for people to hear because you're educated, because you understand, you know that it's wrong. But when you don't challenge, sometimes you are just as bad as the person who's doing it. It is also worth acknowledging, and I really do need to make the point of it, that not every white person, not every person who is not Black or of ethnic minority is racist. I completely know that, and I completely respect those who are understanding, and if they're not, they're trying to be understanding, they're trying to educate themselves, they're trying to make a difference. And a lot of the people that I come into contact with, a lot of the people that I work with are those people. They are respectful, they are educated, but there are those ones that you come across that really aren't. And especially when they're in a position of power, or they're in a position of professionalism or a certain degree of professionalism, and you're still seeing those subtle kind of comments or those subtle views really coming out in their interactions with you. That's really quite sad and really quite unfortunate. And I always have to question why. I always have to question why, when you are in a certain position, you still hold those certain kind of views, especially when you have been through the social work degree, you've done the course, you've studied, you are, I mean, your code of the ethics, our social work ethics, clearly state the level of our level of practice, the level of values that we need to uphold. So I'm always quite baffled when people still are showing those really outdated views. Another thing is, ignorance really is not bliss. Do not turn a blind eye to something and think, well, because I'm not involved in it, I don't have to say anything. Oh, I didn't see that, or I didn't hear that person say anything, or it didn't sound as bad to me, or I don't know what they meant. Ignorance really is not bliss. Let's not do that. If you're working with people from a different cultural background to you, just gonna spell it out, black, then you need to adopt your practice. You need to adopt your practice. You cannot use a one-size-fits-all theory or method or approach with every family that you come across, because for starters, every family is unique. Sorry, I'm using families because I work with families, but for those who don't work with families, for those who work with adults, you cannot adopt a one-size-fits-all approach with the service users that we work with, because every service user is different. Social work teaches us about culture and identity and how this shapes a person. So that's your job to do. That's your job in your profession, in your day-to-day working with service users, to understand that and to incorporate that in your assessments, in your interventions, in your approach, in your understanding, in your person-centered or child-centered approaches to people. And on the flip side to that too is, don't overcompensate. So if you're working with someone who is, for example, if you're working with a family who are black, and let's say there have been some issues around physical chastisement, so smacking, let's just reduce it to smacking, then don't think, oh, they come from a black background, they come from an African background, or they come from a West Indian background, so that's quite normal in their culture. No, let's not do that. Let's not overcompensate, because that's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is those stereotypes, that mindset, that kind of those prejudices that we have against certain people of a specific background or race, and when we use that to justify. Another thing is, let's not be trendy, okay? Racism, injustice, discrimination, whatever you want to call it, is not a seasonal thing. It shouldn't have to take really significant and disgusting crimes or tragic events for people to speak up and think, oh my gosh, that's really wrong. No. Racism is an everyday thing. Racism has been happening. Racism, unfortunately, will continue to happen. It is real, it is live, it is direct, and it really still baffles me, again, how people just can't see it. How people can't see that the colour of my skin overrides, in some cases, not all cases, but you know, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the research, when you look at what evidence tells us, the colour of our skin, being black, okay, completely trumps my competence, my experience, my skills, what I have to offer to something. Can we actually take that in? And if you're black, you need to do what they said you could not do, because you are able to do it, you can do it, and you will do it. We need to be breaking through those glass ceilings, those barriers, those hurdles that the system, that life, that society puts in front of us. For example, things like, you know, the education system and the amount of children that are coming, the amount of black children that are coming out with really good GCSEs, again, is quite minimal. The amount of black minorities that you're seeing in management or senior positions is very minimal. And as a side note, that's why I made this channel, that's why I made this forum, that's why I made this brand, Young Black Social Worker, because it's about demonstrating, it's about sharing my experiences with other people that this is possible, this is achievable. You are great and you can achieve greatness too. Don't let anybody bring you down, don't let anybody demean your possibilities or demean your skills or demean who you are as a person based on the colour of your skin. That's why people are protesting. That's why people are fighting for injustice. That's why these conversations will keep happening over and over and over again. It's not jumping on the bandwagon. It's fighting. It's fighting for what is right. It's speaking up about what is right. And specifically for us as social workers, that's what we need to be doing. I don't understand why we have that divide among social workers. If there's any profession in society, if there's any profession in the world that should not be, for starters, should not be silent. Secondly, should not be trivialising people's experiences. Thirdly, should not be undermining the causes, is social workers, because that's what we do. That is part of who we are. That's what we sign up to. That's what we study social work for. That's what we come into this job for. It is okay to acknowledge the pain and suffering of a particular group. That does not mean that you're dismissing the experiences of others. That genuinely does not mean that you're dismissive. It just means that you're acknowledging one particular problem, one particular issue in a multitude of issues, and you are fighting for the cause, as we are trained to do as social workers, as our core values should be as social workers. For me, things that I need to try and do to change that is I need to be more vocal about the experiences of Black people. I need to be more representative of Black people, because that's who I am. I need to be more representative in the workplace or my practice, because that's what we're here to do. Things like making sure that equality and diversity is something that's discussed, something that is recognised, something that people understand. It's not just token tick box or token discussed once a year.